again, very proud to welcome one of my colleagues, Anna Mendez. Anna is a creative director in our brand and advertising team based here in the Netherlands. Yeah, shout out from the team there. Good. Everywhere. Yeah, that's good. Anna is originally from Mexico City, and she's been working in the advertising industry for 10 years. And today, she's going to tell us why she hates to love the advertising industry. So Anna, I'm going to be really interested to know how you've lasted for so long in an industry that you're not quite sure about. Everyone, make some noise and give a very warm welcome to Anna Mendez.
So, I promised myself that I would never work in advertising again. Back when I lived in Mexico, I used to work at one of these big traditional agencies, whatever they're called now. And I remember when I first started working there, it was like a dream come true. I was living the advertising life. We had the coolest office. You would walk in and you would have this aisle with glass cases, and it would be full of awards. You would then walk into the creative floor, and there would always be something happening. You would have creatives brainstorming on the floor, on the walls, everywhere. You had Post-its, you had storyboards, you had the whole shebang. We even had a graffiti on the wall that they would change every 6 months because we got tired of looking at it. How spoiled were we, right? Now, with time, I remember that what I liked the most was we had these custom-made working areas. And the coolest thing about them was that depending on how or where you were seated, you could hide from the creative director. I know, hiding sounds a bit iffy, but we needed to do this because there was this, I want to call it culture, where in order to prove yourself, in order to show that you were really in the game, you had to stay late. Or at least as late as our creative director did. This got so bad to the point that in our design team, we used to have this animator. Her name was Lindsay. And like whenever Lindsay wanted to leave at a reasonable time, what she would do is she would grab her jacket and her backpack, and she would, during lunch, hide it in one of the stalls next, in the bathrooms next to the elevators. And at around 6:37, Lindsay could just get up from her seat and then just go like, I'm going to the bathroom, and then she would go to the bathroom and not come back. Yes, Lindsay would go home. And I remember thinking, well, if Lindsay's done with her work, why can't she just go home? And the thing was that we were never done with our work because whenever we didn't have client work, we always had this thing called proactivity. Proactivity was the type of work that we did. The whole objective of it was to think of as many ideas as we could to win awards. And I actually remember liking this part. Like, I was like, who doesn't want an award? They're shiny, they're cool, let's get one. So we would stay late every night to think of as many ideas as we could, and 10 out of 10 would suck. But whenever we did find that one idea where we were like, we're gonna change the world with this, we would then have to go and sell it to our clients. And half of the time, we would be met with feedback like, no, Lindsay, we do not need an ad that throws confetti in our faces every time a unicorn dies. We could also just make a post where we communicate our new recycled bottles. That works too, right? So that got frustrating, and it got even more frustrating when I realized that I needed the awards. It's not so much if you wanted them or not, because if you wanted to make a career out of this, if you wanted to move up the ladder, the more awards you had, the better working conditions you would get. And when I say working conditions, I mean more money, because our work-life balance would still suck. It also helped me understand why our management was amazing at coming up with ideas, but they had no idea how to manage people. So after a while, that got quite frustrating, and I had the hope that maybe this was just a Mexico thing. Work-life balance in Mexico has never been good. But then you would bump into all these articles in the ad blogs of the world where creative directors would be leaving offices in Shanghai, New York, Amsterdam. And half of the times, these blogs that they would write would start with titles like, "Why I'm happier as a bus driver than I ever was as a creative." And I did not make this title up. Like, this was an actual article that I read once. So when I started talking about this with people, I was like, well, why do we do this? Like, are we really happy like this? And people would always tell me, well, Anna, that's just how the industry works. Either you're in or you're out. You know what, Lindsay? I'm out. I realized that I for sure didn't want to give up my life for this type of industry. Not when it was all about the long hours, the never-ending rounds of feedback, the unsatisfied clients, the egocentric creatives, which made complete sense based on all the award-driven work. So when I moved to the Netherlands, I saw it as an opportunity to accomplish my dreams of becoming a bartender. As it turns out, I don't know how to do that, so I didn't get that job. But I did get a job at a small digital agency. And this was a place where very slowly, I started falling back in love with the work that I did. This was a place where I felt like my input mattered. We would literally focus, we were focused on making good creative work. For us, every brief was a challenge. It was an opportunity to prove ourselves. And everything got us a step closer into accomplishing our dreams of becoming one of the best digital agencies in the Netherlands. It was a place where I started staying late, again, because I wanted to be better, and not because I had to. Now, as you can see by the size of this lovely festival here today, we are no longer small. We have evolved from a small agency to a big one, which means we have started navigating this big agency life again, which comes with its beautiful perks, but also with what I now call the big agency problems. And ever since we started growing, I can't help but ask myself, are we doomed? I mean, there must be a reason why all these agencies run the way that they do, right? Or have they been running the show for so long and they're so cemented in their ways that it's just become easier to accept that that is how the industry works and no one is trying to change things? This time around, what presents a beautiful opportunity for us is that part of the perks of being part of this fast-growing organization is that we get to try this whole big agency thing in a different way. We get an opportunity to actually try and change things. We already know what we for sure don't want to become, and we know what made us strong in the first place. So maybe somewhere between those two, we can actually change things. Can this be done? I mean, is it even possible? I unfortunately don't know. We haven't figured that part out yet. What I have figured out, and if you talk with people in the industry, you start understanding this, is that this is not a people problem or a creative problem. This is not a client or budget problem, as much as we would like to think it is. This is, at points, I even doubt if this is an agency problem. What this is a mindset problem. And this mindset is killing our industry. Yes, I know that sounds a bit drastic, but it is. Because it's making the people that work for us and clients question if what we bring to the table as big agencies actually matters. And trust me, it does. We need big agencies. We need to be big. Because big agencies have the brain power and the resources to push past novelty and change behaviors. They can add value to a business, any type or size of business, which as a result attracts big brands. These big brands represent a beautiful platform where we can propose something meaningful, where we can do things differently. A place where we can create or change culture, like one of my creatives says. This, as a default, attracts talented people. People that love what creativity can do for advertising, or any type of industry for that matter. So, where do we even start to change things? Well, first, we need to lose the ego. Or, better yet, we need to learn how to balance it. because I have come to realize that egos have a way of provoking people. But it's all about finding that sweet spot between nurturing people's talent and actually provoking them to push themselves to the extreme. Small agencies excel at this because in order to get shit done, they need to work together. So start pushing cultures where your teams have one shared goal. And stop putting your need of recognition ahead of the work that you're doing. Because this is the only way we will bring back the trust. And we need to bring back the trust. There's a time when work needs to be crazy and innovative and award-winning. And a time when work just simply needs to be creatively practical. How do we know the difference? By working together. Yes, with your teams, obviously, but also with your clients. Stop thinking of ideas, thinking of awards, and start thinking of ideas to solve the problems that we're being asked to solve in the first place. Hopefully, winning all our awards on our way there. Because yes, awards are a necessary evil, but why do they need to be evil at all? Finally, we need to lose the fear. When agencies become bigger, risks become bigger, and this creates fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of losing your job, fear of what clients want, fear of budgets, fear of speaking up, fear of fighting for what you believe in, fear of accepting that you might not know how to do things, fear of asking for help. This pushes the people that work for us and clients to work from their safety zones. And it's obvious because they do this in order to not make mistakes. But if we are not willing to fail, how can we be expected to innovate? So lose the fear by focusing on the people. There's this quote by Andrew Bennett, the global CEO of Abbas, that says, "For organizations whose biggest capital is people, agencies don't spend a lot of time making sure their people are happy." So, put the human aspect into the money-making machine and make sure your people are happy. In short, stop trying to make attention-grabbing advertising and start making human advertising instead. I'm not saying this will solve all our problems. For every one we solve, we bump into 10 new ones. But I truly believe they get us a step closer. And we at least have to try. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the people that work for us. We owe it to the Lindsays that love this industry so much that they are still stuck in those shitty agencies. Above all else, we have to try, because if the outcome of what we do is already this good, despite of everything that is wrong with this industry, imagine what the outcome can be if we actually manage to fix it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Everyone, show your appreciation once again for Anna Mendez.